Wasteland was a very strong piece, and I knew it would be, given the Dead by April regard, who I've been a longtime fan of for a number of years. But as I love with collaborations, first exposures on this channel offer wonderful opportunities to meet new artists that are not of the highest name regard to me, but perhaps, and maybe to general audiences as well, but deserve to be. And it can vary, again, in the territory of a collaboration, right? You might have two very well-known artists or more perhaps colliding, or you might have, again, like I said, a fresher presence. And in terms of track availability, and I believe emergence in terms of time, The Day We Left Earth is that to some regard. But I would say, based on Wasteland, they deserve to be amplified if they haven't been already to the enjoyment of many prospective new listeners. And I do hope in any way, if I can manage this on the channel, as I've said for a long time, it's been a grand ambition of mine since the founding, really, of my work here, to bring music into a grander role in terms of entertainment coverage. Because, as I've said many times, it's a first love in my life. But I love the shared experience on part of being able to inspire, if I can, paths for you to explore new artists that are worth your time. And we've taken, many journeys with a grand share of artists, whether they differ in stylings, although mostly this channel's built around metal and rock. That is a personal favorite of mine. But in name presence, even in geography, we've ventured all over the place in terms of spotlighting such advantageous artists of noteworthy regard. And I would say The Day We Left Earth, though I forget where they're from, they are European, and many of you know how much I love that. It's like, that's an automatic qualifier with, okay, I'm sure you're going to be damn good, and you were. For sure. Great vocal presence, beautifully meshed with Dead by April as well in terms of the electronic energy. Like, it really felt like a beautiful collaboration that just made sense. But I'm curious to explore and inquire on their works apart, right, from the collaborative model. This is just The Day We Left Earth, as good as Wasteland was. Let's entertain what they have to offer in a selection of work. In fact, I'm going to be considering every track they've released besides Wasteland, because it's a smaller selection. But again, I like being able to, if I can, inspire new paths for you to explore with new artists, right? If you're in an artist shopping mode, but you haven't ventured down certain routes yet, like the European one, and if you haven't gone down that route, you're missing out. Let's explore The Day We Left Earth at a greater depth, starting with, I'm going in order in terms of track listings and release dates. Melancholia, I think is how you pronounce it. In fact, if it's the name of the EP, I'm going to go ahead and pull that one up. We can enjoy it together as well on part of a video visualizer as well component that came alongside, which also features the lyrics. Many of you know I like to be able to offer complete works here for anybody who wants to read along with the message of the piece, and I'm going to be doing the same, but I usually have to input the lyrics manually. I don't mind doing that. As I said, I like to offer complete takes that fit my idea of a passion project. It's always a privilege for me, though, when, at least I regard it as such, when groups ease up on the time it takes for me to produce content, because the lyric input does take up a good duration of, effort. So when the artists provide the lyrics to be a part of the videos that they release, it means a lot. Here we go with The Day We Left Earth. We're going to start our journey with them in terms of being single presences on their own merits. But let's get an introduction perhaps together. Maybe some of you are longtime fans. Again, I welcome both dynamics. Fresh listeners and longer than myself, obviously, fans. I welcome both sides of your company so we can have a generally fun experience here where, it is very much, it's a mutual enjoyment, right? As much as I can make it so, right? A bit of an unorthodox path, I know, but in any way, a shared experience, if I can offer that, if I'm successful in manifesting my ambition, it'll warm my heart. Usually does, and I've had proof of that in regards to many of the exchanges I've had with you and back and forths in the comment sections, that you've enjoyed these perhaps emergence and introduction experiences we've taken together. Let's have that with The Day We Left Earth. Or you're going to be getting the perspective of somebody who, again, fresh entertainment, right? But you're a longtime fan. Whole line of routes we can take in terms of our approach. But either way, The Day We Left Earth, let's enjoy them together. Hang on a second. All right. Here we go. Melancholia. Yeah, I like the softer opener. For pop flair. Good vocal echoes. I love the energy of the piece.
What a wonderful life.
Unique constructions. Beautiful drive, though. I can see why they connected with Dead by April. They're very similar on sound and some of the elements. They're very individual to the approach of my playlist. Even with the pop side, meshed of the electronic, I admire originality. This piece offers a lot. Wow. It's a bold song, but
just get high. If you're feeling lonely, just grab a
wow. My goodness. For our first introduction, wow. Again, to them specifically. I'm sure many of you are going to catalog this similar to me as a bold introduction, and one that you won't forget about. Wow. You know, I like being at this point of confusion with the work I consult, and I don't know where to approach. In terms of a general rough structure, you know, as I've said many times, I don't script anything. I might pre-plan, I might consider perhaps paths to go down in terms of discussion, but I usually let the songs adapt my framework. Or really any of the art I consult, because it's, you know, broader than music. Of course, many of you who follow my work know that I consider a variety of artistic offerings in different styles and languages. For me, not, well, maybe literal languages perhaps, yes, but I mean in terms of artistic expressions and formats. I let the art drive the framework. And I love being in this position with music where I don't know, and this is not in any way to throw shade at any of our tracks that don't follow down this path, but I love being at this position of I don't know where to begin. Because there's just so much offered there on depth, on presence, on originality. Let me start there with the music. As I said, coming off of this track, it makes complete sense why there's an overlap between Dead by April and The Day We Left Earth from part of that collaborative work. They have similar shades. I would say Dead by April comes across as a bit generally, though they play around with a mix on sound and tone, yes. Most of their music takes on a much harder approach, and maybe The Day We Left Earth will demonstrate that. I don't know. Again, I'm consulting 5 of their work, so I think give a good window. They fit, I would say, into the middle ground space with Dead by April on that tone between ballad and harsh metal rock. Because there's elements pulled from both. With the unique pop construction meshed with an electronic background. And I've said as well, in regards to the European rock space, this has built a favorability towards electronic music, though there are exceptions to note that I've cataloged in the past as well that have fit this realm of judgment for me. I'm not a big EDM guy, unless it's integrated naturally with at equal balance, or if music takes on more of a prominence, right? But it becomes a there's a collaborative presence between electronic and music. That's kind of what I like. I'm not like the big, go into a club and hear just a bunch of strung out frenetic beats. Like, that's just not me, right? There has to be some sort of music basis. And I found with a lot of these European talents that there's such strength in that integration. Though in America we have some too. Again, I've regarded some groups in the past that fit that idea for me. This is very natural, and the structure is paced beautifully. I like the pop electronic overlap, which then immediately transitions into a much harder backdrop on tone, meshed wonderfully with the lyrics, which, as I've understood from the group, based on when I covered Wasteland, I did have correspondence on part of The Day We Left Earth, and I proposed a couple of ideas on what the intention of the song was. And I try to be fair. I don't like to speak for any artist or really any person in terms of imposing my own translation. Because I like to be fair to the art that I'm consulting and be respectable in considering what the intention was and not overriding it. Not providing a path of deterrence that would take away from the original artist ambition unless I get that wrong. I like to go uninformed. My understanding from The Day We Left Earth, I don't know if this applies generally to their works, but it did for Wasteland, was it was written as such that it could have a broad extraction. Though again, you can apply it specific ways, right? It's generally accessible. I don't know if maybe it's a path the other works fall into for sure. I'd have to go check the comment again to confirm, but I'm going to assume maybe they were written the same way, because this I could see easily, like I said, the same path of different approaches. There's a couple dynamics here stressed in the lyrics, but there are narrower adaptations for perhaps specific walks of life that people have been on, that if you fall into such a perspective, you can fit the lyrics to best apply to your life and your story. It's a deeply cathartic song that is written, I think, beautifully. I will say from the perspective of what I'm reading, it comes across to me as a cathartic rebellion against the monotony of life that can come across, especially when somebody's at a position of opposition to a state of being. I would say somebody who feels, specifically when I read the lyrics, depression comes to mind. Or I would say, let's keep this fair, because I don't necessarily, again, I'm not, I need to look deeper into the diagnosis. I need to see, because people these days always use the expression like, I'm depressed, right? And I've dealt with emotions like that, but I don't want to, that's why I've been very careful whenever I attributed depression. I don't want to, for experiencing, or articulating on my personal experiences, I don't want to assume a diagnosis I don't know for sure that I would qualify in having. But I've certainly dealt with emotions, I think many people have, that fit along the depressive lines. This is a song that comes across to me as being generally applicable to that. But it's written so well. I'm a blurry face. The visuals of this. My life, it goes in circles. Voices in my head telling me I'm not enough. It's just this and the melancholia. I love how that's worded. What's the one section? I think it's on the bridge. Let me see. In terms of proper lyrical categorization, just to be sure on this point, it is, well, the side I'm looking at doesn't label it. I'm assuming that was. Pop a pill, just get high, just grab a gun. That is strong in line, right? But you look at the state of society today in general, right? I can't speak for Europe necessarily, but I would imagine, again, because of the way that I at least observe American culture and how people are feeling these days in a state of life that I think generally we can all look at as we're living in a world of such misery, pain, uneasiness. There's a lot of difficulty amongst people's lives generally, again, however we narrow that down. That's very specific, though, on writing in a way, like I said, music, especially in the rock space. And I'll tell you, I've said this many times, people in my life, I've always felt a bit disassociated from my surrounding company in that I don't have connections with music in terms of my tastes. I've always pushed, well, not always, but over many years, I've pushed more so towards the metal and rock territory. I have dealt with, the judgmental stares. I've dealt with the confusion, the disorientation of I mentioned half the groups I consult, and number one, and I'm not saying this to be, overly critical here, but my company doesn't know half the groups I mentioned, maybe 90%. Certainly not in the European realm, but they should. But I think back to when I was younger, when I first started getting into rock, and the judgmental stares that I got. The indifference. The Day We Left Earth, alongside many other groups I've highlighted on this channel in regards to cathartic pieces, this is why I've pushed so deeply with rock music. I have noticed an authenticity in this space that might exist in other landscapes, but is so universally applied here. And how honest music is in this sphere is quite respectable, because I just don't see this boldness in other circles I've inquired on generally. Not to this degree. As I said, those lines are very specific, and for anybody that needs a sense of connection, right? And we might find that in other ways, in life. Maybe some of you are lucky enough to have people in your personal life who actually connect with you on music tastes, for sure. But you might have people in your life that you consider, a rock or reasonable, approachable company that might help you in a time of crisis. Or you've got hobbies, maybe you've got an occupation, maybe you've got family, you've got faith as well. I've made it no secret on this channel. Everything I approach, I come from a Christian perspective, right? And that's certainly, I would say, a regard as well. Again, as I was saying, there's many vehicles to have people, or how one can find catharsis. Music is a beautiful environment for that, especially within the rock and the metal territories. The authenticity of this genre in the many artists that come on and approach such topics with unafraid honesty means a lot. Because I think of many stories that I know for people who, and I'm sure many of us could. Plenty of people have dealt with these types of struggles, and in other spaces we don't even see it really hardly mentioned, or maybe we're told, maybe it's treated a bit of a suppressive minimizing, right? Not in the rock scene. I mean, people as well, generally speaking, in society, we might talk about this generally, but when it comes to mentioning people's stories, there's maybe a general timidness, right? A feeling that you might not be understood or humored or given, the help and the healing that you might need, where, I can relate to this on different regards, but with music, again, the reason I pushed so closely toward rock was I, have been in spaces where I felt like I've needed healing. And music was there for me in ways that people weren't. Now, I'll be fair on this as well. My faith was there for sure, because I don't want to make it sound like, I'm being completely sacrilegious here. Because the truth is, yes, my faith was there, and, some company, very, very minor, but generally speaking, I felt closer to music than I did with the people in my life. Because the issues that I dealt with, I did not feel that anybody was receiving me in a way that I needed help. And I think a lot of other people could relate to that. Maybe, again, like I said, on different specifics, for sure. This song, I think, is just such a great approachability in that. And even, I keep reading that one section. Yes, I think back on how I felt listening to this, and yeah, there's a reason I was gaping the entire time. This is so specific. Speaking about the gun example, there will be a hole where the emptiness was taking place. Wow. It just... Man, the bluntness and the realization of this piece, it is so specific. I just admire it. It's sad for sure. But this is a piece that's cataloging somebody reconciling with the state of their life and expressing it in a way that hopefully other people can understand. What a piece to start with in terms of the Day We Left Earth engagement. And I thought Wasteland was strong. Melancholia is, or Melancholia, that's a piece that will not leave you. And as I said, in every metric, and the vocal pattern as well, I love this guy's voice. I love the range of it. It does remind me a lot, like I said, in terms of a natural feed into Dead by April, in terms of collaborations, the two are very similar. But the strength individually of this group, it's a lot like, Dead by April as well, because they've also expressed, matters in substance as well. They've dealt with personal, life struggles and very relevant, topics. Just the strength, though, of this piece on a first debut, for me, wow. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And if you wish to disclose it, again, I welcome anybody's company. Longtime fan, fresh listener. I'd love to hear both perspectives on how you approach this piece, and perhaps how it means to you, or what it means to you. Like I said, music can be deeply cathartic. Maybe not always. Maybe it's just a general fun listen. Maybe that's what the group will be going for. But this piece, man, I sense such a connection, and I wonder if the Everworks are going to go down this way. But that is, as a first engagement for The Day We Left Earth, I'm very impressed. I can't wait to hear more, and we certainly will. I'm looking forward to the experience. If it's as strong as Melancholia, I think we're in for a group of, again, promising regard and noteworthy recognition. And if I can help in any way set you down a path of exploring such a notable talent, that'll mean a lot to me. And I'm sure to the group as well. Day We Left Earth absolutely deserves it, in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.